I graduate the official Black Graduate Students Organization here at Pitt, and our mission is to serve all graduate and professional students with cultural or research interest in the Afro-global populations. What do I mean by Afro-global populations? Black America, the African continent, the Caribbean, the West Indies, diaspora, entire diaspora. That's what it is. So you don't have to look like me to be part of PANAF. You are part of PANAF. He's the CEO and President of the Freeman Institute, accomplished author, internationally sought after conference speaker, and a workshop facilitator. Serial entrepreneur, professional counselor, success coach to executives, behavioral analyst, organizational culture change specialist, Rosetta Stone history expert, corporate trainer, recipient of numerous awards, citations, and honors, motivational consultant and mentor to pro athletes, multicultural astute with travels to 50 plus countries, critical incident debriefing coach, philanthropist, magazine publisher, photographer, passionate about dynamic, fun-filled excellence, experiences an ongoing love and hate relationship with technology, devoted husband and father, off-key singer, just like me, and a extremely bad dancer. Well, I think I can dance. A life motivated by curiosity, no boo, no hype. Please join me, let's welcome Dr. Joel Freeman.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I call that resume obituary type stuff. So, probably about 20 or 30 pieces from my collection. I have over 3,000 pieces of Black history. The oldest piece dates back to 1553. And right now in the UN we have 20 pieces at the United Nations for their transatlantic slavery exhibit. The goal for all of this, and maybe get a chance later if we have just a little bit of time, the objective of this is to develop Black history galleries all around the country with churches, charter schools, community-based organizations, maybe colleges, universities coming together and forming an alliance as a unique outreach to the community. And it's especially designed to educate and inspire young people of all ages. and to have a whole wall dedicated just for white abolitionists so that white people can come and not feel like they're going to get beat up emotionally. And just have something that the whole community can be a part of and everyone can leave with a pep in their step. And over here I have a book and a film called Return to Glory. This is a book that really forced me on a whole nother level. Anyway, this is a little bit about my background. Also, I served as mentor chaplain to the Washington Bullets for 19 years. And I started in 1979. To my knowledge, I was probably the second or third chaplain in the history of the NBA. I don't know. But I was one of the first ones. And it just was at the beginning stages, you can imagine, on a suspicion scale from somewhat to extremely suspicious. First of all, I was very young, 25 years of age. And secondly, working with a lot of African-American players, a lot of the guys were looking at me like, I'm supposed to spill my guts to that guy? You gotta be kidding me. And so what happened is that, whether consciously or unconsciously, a lot of guys began, because I was chaplain, they began to ask me questions. And I can remember some questions like, where was the Garden of Eden located? What color was Jesus? What did he look like? What part did people of African descent have to play in biblical history, extra-biblical history? And so it became something that, those were not even a blip on my radar screen. I didn't even know what questions to ask about that. So it really forced me to start studying about these types of things on a whole nother level. And I'm very grateful and thankful for some of those discussions and some of those talks in those particular areas that forced me to start doing research. And it was a wonderful experience. Here you can see the Shaq shoe. This is size, what size is it? 22? I didn't bring it with me today, but it is enormous. This is George Morrison's shoe. You can see George here. She's now 24 years of age. But here's George, head and shoulder above a regular door. He's not standing on a peach basket either. Pretty tall dude. But anyway, it was quite. Why do I show this? Because many times when we look at life in these shoes, and the ups and the downs that come with it, I just want to flip the channel and take a look at our own lives. What's life like in your shoes? We talk about cross-cultural issues. We talk about being successful in business and having kind of some strategies and some ideas for communication, raising kids in this day and age. And so I want to kind of flip the channel and take a look at what is life like in our shoes. But I'm going to do it in the sense of through my perspective, through my lens, as a white man journeying into black history, to share a little bit about my journey and some of the things that I've confronted in life. And interview men. And you can imagine me sitting down with a man of 62 years of age, a distinguished man who's maybe worked in the Nuclear Regulatory Commission or something like that. He's had a very high job, and he's looking at me and saying, "You're doing what, son? You're writing to who?" Well, I'll tell you what, let me go around the corner and laugh a little bit, and then I'll come back in and I'll give you your 45 minutes. Yeah, you can interview me. Yeah, because Ronald told me I should talk to you, so I'll do that for Ronald because he's a good friend of mine. So what happened is I would ask questions, and you can go back to that suspicion scale from somewhat suspicious to extremely suspicious. We're banging on this end of the scale. I asked a question that changed the tone of every single interview. It took those interviews from 45 minutes to 6 hours, to 8 hours. In some cases, we ended up crying together. So, in my cell phone, I still have numbers from individual gentlemen I talked with, that we became dear friends as a result of this listening tour that I've never stopped. And just listening, asking questions, and learning, taking notes, and trying to understand as best as I possibly could what they were telling me. You want to hear that question? The question that changed the tone of every single interview? Here it is. Do you remember the moment when you realized that because of the color of your skin, the rules were somehow different for you? To have that 62-year-old man pause, exhale, and then tell me with brilliant clarity what happened when he was 6 years of age. He knew the color of the car, could remember it. He knew the street he was on. He knew the time of day. He knew where he was coming from, where he was going to. He knew what he was wearing. He knew what the weather was like. What happened inside of me is it gave a glimpse. After hearing these stories of the moment, I began to realize there was a whole grieving process involved in dealing with all of this. Here's what Count T. Cullen from the Harlem Renaissance, he wrote as a young man. He called it the incident. I'm calling it the moment. Once riding in old Baltimore, heart-filled, head-filled with glee, I saw a Baltimorean, kept looking straight at me. Now I was 8 and very small, and he was no whit bigger, and so I smiled. But he poked out his tongue and called me nigger. I saw the whole of Baltimore from May until December. Of all the things that happened there, that's all that I remember. A few years back, I was speaking, doing the Martin Luther King Jr. birthday event at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. Talked about the moment. A gentleman, very distinguished African-American gentleman who very high up in the lab, came up to me afterwards and caught up with me out in the parking lot. I was just getting ready to head down to Albuquerque, catch my flight back to Baltimore area, and be back with my family. He started talking, quite cold out. I didn't have a jacket on. I was feeling kind of cold. And he was intensely telling me his story, and then he said, you know, when I was a kid, when this happened to me, he said, it felt like all of a sudden the wind picked up to hurricane force. I became aware of things as a young kid. I began to watch, I began to learn, I began to ask questions, I began to see, I began to feel this pressure coming against me. If you ever watched CNN, Fox, just any of these channels where there's a hurricane in Florida or Texas or some other part of the country, and you can see this guy standing, trying to lean, or a lady or gentleman just leaning, trying to report, yeah, the wind is going here. You know, wind, it's a name. At around 75 miles per hour. He told me as a young man, his teenage years, he learned how to lean into that wind. He learned how to retain his equilibrium when that wind was blowing all around him. He excelled. He had a tour in Japan. Got off the plane, out of the airport, all of a sudden the wind stopped. He couldn't believe it. And he said he's almost lost his emotional equilibrium. It was so different, it's so refreshing, so new, so unique that he'd never experienced anything quite like this before. Some folks in the home office visited about 3 weeks later, and over dinner, he felt the wind pick up again. He's a no BS kind of guy. Everyone here, you've received compliments of some sort. I know it's hot in here, but can we shut that door? But can you turn the...
I do.
Okay. But he looked at me square in the eye. And he said, Dr. Freeman, most everyone here, we've all received compliments. This is probably the finest compliment, one of the finest I've ever received. He said, for some reason, I don't feel any wind coming from you. Ladies and gentlemen, it struck me so hard. As I was driving back from Los Alamos all the way down to Albuquerque, about 2 hours or so, a little bit longer perhaps, there were times I had to pull over. I just started crying. And I made a pact between me and God. And I said, I never, ever want to sponsor the wind in someone else's life. And if I do, I want to be man enough to go to that person alone and ask for forgiveness, and ask for help, and ask for insight on never doing that again with another person. That's all, folks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Freeman. Please, Jeremy, let's welcome proper education. I will give us about 2 monologues, and then Michael Vick will come and give us about 1 poetry performance, and we'll be out of here. Thank you very much.
I feel like, ain't nobody gonna understand this, and, nobody's gonna think this is deep enough, blah, blah, blah. And I shared a piece one day, and, I'm thinking, oh, this is too abstract, nobody's gonna get this, because I'm saying all these crazy words, and somebody comes up to me, and they're like, oh my goodness. When you said, and I'm like, what, you got that? And it'd be a part that I wouldn't even think anybody would get, and I'm like, wow, you got that out there? For real, and then, I said, wait, I can do this, and, they said I shared a gift with them, and I read somewhere where he said, gift is only a gift when you share it, and so, here's another gift I want to share with you. It's another piece that I wrote as I was kind of going through some things. I recently just had a best friend's young brother last week killed himself, and he was only 20 years old, and I had just saw him like 2 days before he did it, and to me he looked all right. He was trying to flirt with some girls at a bus stop. I thought he was fine, and 2 days later, he killed himself. So I feel there's a lot of cries for help that we don't really pay attention to, and so this is called Journey of the Tear. Her smile intoxicated my soul as I began to drift into areas of my mind uncharted. And I said, hey, would you mind sharing some of your tears with me? Because it appears that my eyes don't have the will to create anymore. And she said with a sad persistence. But see, the continuance of perplexity continues to simplify my thinking faculties to the level of a 4-year-old's comprehension of the stars, wind, rain, sunshine, and a mother's frown. And all alone in the hallways of my fears, I stand trapped between the wall of forgetfulness and the walls of remembering. Forgetting the ways of creating smiles and remembering the frowns of my next door neighbors. As my stepdad throws my mother on the floor 3 or 4 times while having the front door wide open for the whole city to see the destruction of a family. My heartbeats used to be so enjoyable to listen to, but sometimes I wish they would stop. So I wouldn't have to have a constant reminder that I still have life, that I still have another opportunity to feel the tremble in my arms while holding my son, because I still see my mistakes as my identity. And I go on to create cellular memories of loneliness and self-esteem at the level of my youngest sister after she falls off her bike when trying to ride her for the first time. But baby, never suppress your tears, because there is nothing worse in this world than a tear that is suppressed. You see, I strive for meditative moments, and I strive for contemplative sincerity. I strive, and sometimes it seems like I haven't even been born into this planet yet. It's like I'm still in my etheric stage of development in the form of liquid, struggling to be free from fluidity into an enlightened gaseous state so I can experience the floating of my soul, because ultimately, that's my spiritual manifesto: freedom. Free to free you and me. Free yourself from the continuity of mental paralysis. Free yourself from this concrete jungle where survival of the fittest is the dream of the majority born of fear, where joy and laughter and hugs are all an illusion, the mythology of the minority of those born of love, of which I'm a part. So forgive me, y'all. I happen to be one of those who still believes in love. And because of my belief in love, I've been hugged and forgotten, hugged and forgotten, hugged and forgotten, over and over and over, mostly by me. And I'm striving to end this vicious cycle that has been so vicious to you, to me, and to everyone else out there who still believes in love. I'm striving to be love in totality. But yes, love is totality. And I and many of you have been feeling fragmented way too long. Thus this cry, y'all. This cry for help. Thank you.
This is bright horizon. We're about to write new black history. And our book's going to change from this tragedy into a love story. Because in the last chapter, we will recapture our true heritage and glory. Our tragedy started many, many years before. It first started by capture, and then came some more, with an horrific boat ride to America's shores. But we had never seen such many hateful human beings. We were stripped of all dignity and showed no compassion or humanity, and made the toil in America's soil for free. And the horses and chickens were treated better than you and me. And after they worked us to the bone for hundreds of years, somebody finally said we was free. And we were, because nobody ever paid us for slavery. And this land has always been tragic for the black man. But now, tragic you and I, who make our own mothers cry. We're killing and treat each other bad for not what we treated during slavery. And now, today, brothers do the work of the KKK. For new black history must stop this by any means necessary today. And new black history will get back to our roots and pray. New black history never forget our pain on them slave ships, or the pain of our mothers crying because their sons and daughters are dying. That was our pain, our misery, and our history. But now, it's time for us to get right with God and write new black history. I love all of y'all. Have a good night.